So now we decided to live in a van, but how do we get to the van? There are so many choices to living mobily. Mobily? So we've got vans, we've got school buses, AKA schoolies.
We have minibuses, RVs, ambulance, camper trailers, so many more. Basically, you can live in any type of automobile that you can lay down in, stand up in, or pull behind you.
Yeah, you can drive it or pull it.
Yeah.
You can live in it.
So we decided on a van, but after having to go through all of these choices first.
So based on our needs, we were able to eliminate some choices.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we knew for sure that we wanted to have a bed, a sink, a fridge, definitely a toilet, a stove, an oven. What else?
We wanted a bed, so our bed, we wanted to be able to have that, not just be a fixed bed all the time. So we wanted to be able to have a place to sit down and work. So we had a table that could be converted into a bed type area.
Yeah, that was huge. And a shower.
Oh, and a shower. Yeah,
that
shower.
was big. We decided on that.
We decided that we needed to actually bathe at points in the trip besides being sprayed outside by water.
Yeah, we knew that the odors might be accumulating in the van, so we want to be
I'll
clean.
probably end up showering more on the road than I do at home. I'm kidding.
So other things that we had to consider were size, cost, and we really didn't want something prefab. We want to put our own heart and soul and our personality into it.
Yeah. We wanted to be able to customize it to what we needed and also to make it our own as we're going to be living in it nonstop as our place of transportation as well as our home for the next year. Also, one of the things that we realized it needed to be is have a high roof because we're not tall people, but we also wanted to have some ability to have storage, upper storage, cabinets, and things a little bit taller. We saw a video by Eamon and Beck, and they're very popular YouTubers living in a van and doing all kinds of travel things. And she's 5'10", and he's over 6 feet tall. And we saw with them how valuable this upper space was. So we knew it had to have that and allow us to have the storage and some ceiling so it looked kind of homey as well.
And lastly, we knew that we were going to be getting some financing for this vehicle. So that gave us a few parameters that we had to look at. We can only have X amount of miles on the vehicle. It had to be a certain year.
Certain type of vehicles, more than others. So it had to fit in those requirements, and that was basically where the money's coming from. So that helped us make some of the biggest choices, and we were already leaning in the direction of certain types of vehicles anyways. So in the end, it really just came down to a van made the most sense, a cargo van, because we were able to customize it, we were able to have a high roof, we were able to get it financed relatively easily, and then there was things like insurance too. You have to get it insured, and all of these things kind of fit in, and it just made sense. We liked the idea of van life. Now the next big choice was...
What type of van?
You mean there's more than one?
There are. I know, the choices are never ending. But in the US, we have three main choices for cargo vans, and that is the Mercedes Sprinter van, the Ram Promaster, and the Ford Transit.
Now, each of these had their own options for length, wheelbase, height, and a couple of other things, and most importantly, cost and ability to build within it. So functionality. So we're going to go right into how we decided it, and this is what the criteria that we used. So here we go. We're going to go into the main things we considered in a van.
So one, we needed to have a high roof so that we could have that extra storage that Vince was talking about earlier.
Yeah, that kind of cut out all of the mid-size and low roof van options for all three of those models. Next, we had to consider the width of the van too, because we were going to be building out a bed. For someone who's a lot taller than we are, they need to set their bed lengthwise in the van versus widthwise. So one of the things we need to consider is that we currently sleep in a king-size bed, which is phenomenal. We're two small people. We get to stretch out. This one likes to sleep like a starfish. She completely makes a starfish thing, and she ends up touching me. So we had to get as much width lengthwise as we could so that we could get some of this elbow room so she's not always like,
Mom, he's touching me.
And we were also going to be starting van life in the winter time. And that means that we were going to have to be prepared for skiing, snowshoeing, winter camping, warm clothes, and we had to figure out how we were going to do all of that with the storage capacity underneath as well as on top of the van. So we had to consider what type of drivetrain was on it. It was going to be rear wheel drive, front wheel drive, four-wheel drive, all-wheel drive. We had to figure out the options that were going to make sense that we could afford as well. Okay, so with about 3 options with each van, that's 9 or more options in all of them. So right away, we need to start eliminating things. Like I said, we had to eliminate the medium and low roof vans right away. So we can strike through those in every one of those 3 categories. And then next, wheelbase wise, we needed enough length that we could get a shower and some countertops and then try to fit in a queen size bed. These are just our needs, and this is what we're doing so that we could start figuring out the shorter wheelbase, and the shorter models weren't going to work for us. So we can strike those off right away, and we had to then think about the medium to the extended versions of the vans, and that's what was going to give us enough room for what we wanted to do and have inside our van. Every person's going to be different. So like Michelle said, we love the idea of an extended van. I mean, might as well make it as long as you can get it. However, we are going to be camping in cities. We're going to be trying to park into parking spaces in towns that we're going to be at. So we thought that medium size was going to be the best size for us. What helped us make that decision too is the car market and van market is extremely tight right now.
Yes,
we did some just preliminary shopping around, and it's hard to get vans in our region. We're here in New Mexico. You know, Colorado is north of us, and we're here in the West. So there's a lot of people doing van life. There's a lot of outdoor people. And every time that we would see something, it would fly off the shelves. So extended vans of different sizes are even harder to find than the medium and shorter sizes. So
also the price is quite a big jump, right? It was like $5,000 or $6,000 more. For that extra.
Yeah, I don't know if that's
or
normal or whatever, but right now, for 16, 18 inches, a foot or two, it's about $5,000 to $7,000 more. Yeah, so we just said we're going to be sticking with a medium-sized van. Now, which one of those options is the best for us out of the Mercedes Sprinter, the Promaster, or the Ford Transit?
Okay, so now let's take a quick look at comparing the 3. Now, since it's a high roof and medium length or longer, we narrowed it down to these options: the Mercedes Sprinter 170, the Ram Promaster 159, and the Ford Transit 148.
Now, the Sprinter is big and nice. We see tall people with no issues in all kinds of space. The dimensions that we looked up says that the 170 is about 22.8 feet in length. It's 69 inches wide. Now, the Promaster is wider from what we've heard, and is also more square inside than the Transit. And that comes in their 159 model comes in at 19.7 feet in length and 73 inches wide. And lastly, the Transit, it comes in third on our estimates. It's 19.8 feet for the 148 model long, and it's 69 inches wide. Now, we have some links in the description where we got those numbers. We've seen some different sites, and they're a little bit off on some of their numbers and length and width, but I think that we came to an agreement that we're just going to go with these numbers. Links in the descriptions below, and you can kind of check it out yourself. All right, now one of the next big categories we're looking at is drivetrain. Like I said, we're going to be going out in the winter, snow, ice, and coming from Jeep life that we used to do, drivetrain was important on whether it could handle certain roads, but we're in cargo vans. These are meant to be used primarily in the cities. The Sprinters, however, they come in 4-wheel drive, 4x4s, and they have other options on it. So that was very attractive to us. The Ram Promaster has front-wheel drive, and I didn't know a lot about that versus rear-wheel drive coming from a 4x4 for a long time. Is that the front-wheel drive, a lot of people are saying, does pretty well in the snow options versus a rear-wheel drive. We've seen a lot of people comparing them. The majority seem to say that front-wheel drive works well with good snow tires and the right, driving it the correct way. And the Transit is a rear-wheel drive. Now, another intriguing thing about the Transit is that the rear-wheel drive is not considered the best in snow and ice from what we've gathered, especially in uphills and some other categories. But there is an all-wheel drive with the Transit that's just coming out. However, based on price and availability, it was something that we thought that wasn't something that we were going to be able to look at this time. Now, we saw from several forums and links online that the repair costs of the Promaster and the Transit were relatively the same based on different things. So the Promaster is not necessarily known, I guess, for having the best transmission. Sometimes there's some transmission issues, slippage or whatever we saw online. And the Transit has some other stuff that they had. But roughly similarly, repair and maintenance within the first years or average yearly maintenance. You can check out some of those links that we stuck below. Now we know just by the name Mercedes that the Mercedes Sprinter is going to have a lot higher repair costs.
Yes.
And the secondary thing is the amount of servicing places, mechanics who work on Mercedes vehicles versus Ford and the Ram brand. So there's a big difference. You can find a lot more people that can work on the Ford and the Ram vans than you can the Mercedes. And another thing to consider is Mercedes parts. So you can typically find parts for the other ones a lot easier, even at your local AutoZone or local auto parts store. Yeah. Whereas we've read that sometimes you might need to wait several days or even a few weeks to get a part for a Mercedes Sprinter if it's not readily available.
Or especially if it's coming from overseas.
Yeah, it comes from overseas too. I was surprised to hear that. Yeah, that would stink a little bit more if you're stuck on a road somewhere in some small town. You got to wait a couple weeks to get a part.
Right.
That was just our understanding. You may find something different.
And then, of course, we have to consider budget. That's huge. So, okay, so let's check out those 3 vans from a budget perspective. So Mercedes Sprinters are the most expensive by far, especially the 4-wheel and the 170 sizes. Now, since this is our first year of van life, we didn't want to just, go all blown out and put all of our money into this van. And so that was a consideration. As
we were looking at the comparisons in our budget versus living at home, having our, rent, having car payments, having, insurance and everything else. And then you're trying to move into van life and you're going to save some money or you're hoping to save some money. And then you're adding $20,000 for a similar van with a little bit more space. You end up with another $300, $400 or whatever it might be a month just to get that little bit of extra space and even like the 4-wheel drive. Given all of that, we decided that we had to mark off the Mercedes Sprinters, even though the 4-wheel drive and some of the other great things about it, the parts, servicing, all of that. It just made sense that we went as our first van into the Ram Promaster or the Ford Transit.
Right. We watched a ton of YouTube videos to weigh the pros and cons of these 2 vehicles. And I want to say one of the things about the Ford Transit, they really talked about the drivability about it and how it drove like a minivan and it was really nice and comfortable. And it also had less transmission issues, but it was rear wheel drive. And so in the end, what it came down to,
we ended up picking Ram Promaster. We chose the Ram Promaster 159 wheelbase. We went with the 2500 model with the high roof. Now the front wheel drive made us feel a little better going into the snow from what we've heard. And we'll know more once we get it done, but from what we've heard generally, it worked pretty good from other van lifers. I love the fact that some of the roof racks came ready-made for the existing mounts on the roof of the Promaster.
And the wider interior width and the squaring of the interior was a really big factor because we were looking at, well, how wide can we make our bed so we're comfortable? We want to have more space to walk around in so that we can put in our cabinets and put in our shower. So next up, it's time to go shopping and let's go buy a Promaster.
So thanks for watching this short video that we had on some of the comparisons. We stuck some links below. Hopefully that'll help you. We went through a lot of videos and a lot of resources online, and it's just how we decided to make that. Make it your own, and hopefully this helped a little bit. Subscribe, keep following us, and we'll let you know when we find one, which will be on the next episode. Thanks for watching. Boom.